Thank you for joining us today for our event on the Seamless Technology Suite. And we're really excited to be able to tell you about some of the latest developments that we've been creating in our proprietary technology. I wanted to start by talking about how we think about the role of technology as a business. When we think about how we can support businesses, we think about the things that are really essential. And when you boil every business down, what's most important to them is growth. Growth is king. And that might mean financial growth, year-over-year performance. It might mean growth for partners, such as shareholders, or it might mean growth for people, ensuring that people are able to fulfill their potential. Growth is king. It's the ultimate goal for all businesses. But what's also true is that growth is incredibly tough, and it's tougher than it's ever been to achieve growth for a business. And there's a few reasons for that. The first is that customers are increasingly demanding. Customer expectations have never been higher. Expectations over service, expectations over delivery, expectations over price. Technology is also leveling the playing field, and you can point to any number of industries that have been disrupted by technology, whether it's Airbnb, whether it's Uber, whether it's Monzo. Technology is allowing new entrants to come in and really disrupt established industries. And the result of those two factors is that the landscape is hyper competitive. And the solution that businesses are looking at is how they can embrace digital to become more customer centric. And I'm sure many of the people joining this webinar have seen maturity models similar to this one created by the Boston Consulting Group that talk about the different stages that people have to go through to be able to introduce multi-moment customer-centric advertising. And really what this means is moving from being a business where, for example, media channels are planned and optimized in silo, technology and data platforms aren't integrated, and there's single message created that isn't adapted to the customer, to a business where media channels are planned and optimized holistically, technology and data are connected across the marketing landscape, and messaging is automatically personalized to the customer. And this is a really important journey for businesses to be able to go on if they're really to reach their growth potential. But there's some barriers which always crop up. It's much easier to say this than to do it, because there's barriers such as cost, resources, and expertise that make going on this journey tough. So when we think about technology and when we think about the Seamless Suite that we've created, it's there to help businesses to overcome some of those barriers. And to that extent, our Seamless Technology Suite unlocks the door to growth. And there's three solutions within our Seamless Technology Suite. The first is Seamless Creative that enables advertisers to deliver multi-moment messaging at scale. The second is Seamless Signal, which enables businesses to react with immediacy to the events that matter. And the third is Seamless Search, which enables marketers to unite their paid and organic search marketing. And to talk through the first of those, I'm very delighted to introduce our Director of Strategy, Jessica, who's going to talk through Seamless Creative.
Thank you, Damien. So going into what is probably one of the biggest hurdles that we've kind of heard to overcome is how can we try and solve the challenges around dynamic creative? And why was this actually important for us to solve this? It speaks about the urgency, the relevancy that actual consumers want from us. So the challenges that we have heard many times over is how can we actually ensure that everybody understands in an organization how dynamic creative works. But more so, also make sure that in this process, there is an easy opportunity to actually preview and see what creatives are going out into the market, because these creatives are dynamic in terms of the data that's going to go into them. And in some cases, brand managers are not confident to actually put creatives live without exactly knowing what that is. Then we look at the complexity that dynamic creative, of course, adds, is how can we make sure that we remove that complexity, empower non-technical stakeholders to actually also be part of this creative process and activate all of these different messaging that they would like to include into their strategies. But then we also look at the expense barrier. We understand that now it means with dynamic creative that there are multiple stakeholders that will need to be involved. It is your technical teams, it's your media teams, it's your creative teams, and that immediately increases the cost associated with getting these campaigns live. And this was definitely a part that we wanted to make sure that we could address. Then, of course, there is making sure that we can help create an easier environment to do testing and learning. We understand the importance of making budgets work, especially more so coming out of a post-COVID environment. And we now need to make sure that whichever efforts we are putting in are the ones that matter. And then speaking to what is coming up and some of the questions that has definitely been top of mind, I think, for most agencies and advertisers is, will dynamic creative be future-proof? How can we ensure that it would be future-proof if we are spending all this time and have spent all of this time building out so much relevancy? And this is where we start kind of jumping into what is the foundation of our thinking? Why have we developed a product like Seamless Creative? So firstly, speaking to that golden thread, which is customer centricity, I want to also speak to the part where there is a massive foundational part that we needed to get right. And this is a part that also ties into organizations and in a way of an easy to use process, an easy to use interface, something that allows them to basically connect all of these different teams that now need to work on this creative component. And then we look at the actual data management and the understanding of what is the data that is needed to make dynamic creative work successfully. In order to do that, we need to basically strengthen the idea of data centricity and what data centricity means today for organizations. And then we look at how we can use technology to now react and listen and evaluate the steps or the actual ideas or creatives that we are launching as part of our campaigns. So a quick look at how we're trying to actually marry all of these different components together. A big philosophy that I think we have all heard over the last few years is giving creative a seat at that table. Now, creative has always had a seat at the table when we look at above the line efforts. And dynamic creative is not an old topic. In fact, it's been around for quite some time. But we're only really seeing advertisers take the steps towards activating dynamic creative in recent years, which is fantastic, but also now we have a new challenge to face, which is the changing ecosystem. Will all of these efforts still be worth the time next year? And that has definitely been top of mind for us. We have a working solution now and we have a working solution into the future. What we look at doing is absolutely simplifying this process. On the one side, you simply start by defining your media goal. Whether you're looking to do awareness or lower funnel considerations, in both cases, you will have a template ready to activate. What we look at doing is making sure that we give advertisers the opportunity to take control of dynamic creative again. Personalize the elements, but keep the sophistication of the creative intact. And this is all being taken care of the creative platform itself and through consultations and strategic sessions as part of the initial stages of when we actually onboard advertisers to the platform. Then we look at the various components of what can be connected into your creative templates, from audience segmentation, from your product feeds to recommendation engines. Every component that you would like to control and learn from can now be incorporated into your creative and through an easy-to-use UI, be activated in real time. So what does this essentially look like from a high-level point of view? Now, I'm using a very visual example here of how we can turn something as simple as a beautifully crafted video into different executed carousels or product carousels towards the end frame. It's one effort that goes into building one execution and then rolling it out seamlessly via a platform. The relevancy is now there without any of the additional efforts of getting teams to build out all of these different variants every single time. So before we go into an actual success case, no platform can speak volumes versus obviously showing you some of the clients that we are rolling these solutions out for. And these are large clients that we are trying to solve exactly these challenges for. How can we make sure that we create scalable creative that they control and can personalize as quickly as they need to based on their media activity without long feedback loops? So let me jump into how we've done this using a success case. What we try to solve, of course, is always a performance element. How can we make sure that your creative is now better performing versus the efforts that you have done in the past? Because the relevancy that we all speak about in dynamic creative is what we want to see in our performance result. And absolutely, this is what it addresses. Because of the different variants that you can build out, the messaging, testing different creative backgrounds or call to action messaging, you have a better opportunity to understand what works best for your audiences and seamlessly make the change on live campaigns versus wait until the end of the campaign to actually see what works. It's a continuous loop of optimization versus the traditional linear approach. But then we also look into the reduced time. And this speaks to the organizational efficiency that we also unlock with this platform. We're moving into an automated world. And this means that we need to find smart ways for your teams to be able to have a tool that they can leverage to make these changes much faster and activate smart technologies like dynamic creative with ease. So how do we actually do this? We move towards a very non-traditional approach, which is called modular creative design. We build out a blueprint creative based on client requirements, and we make sure that in this blueprint, the creative can respond to any changes that campaign managers are making in the platform based on their required needs. Whether this is a retail industry that serves multiple brands, or if it's a private label that has their own brands, their own specific brand with multiple products, or even travel. We strive to create creative that can transform with your consumers. Ones where you can do minimal effort to set up campaigns and the logic or the sophistication lives within the design itself. Does it mean that we're always prohibited to only do a certain amount of signals? Absolutely not. What we have done for the Zalando team is making sure that we gave them no limitation in terms of creative strategies that they can actually incorporate or combine when they're trying to activate some of their campaigns. Whether this be specifically looking at an audience-based signals, and mixing it in with external triggers, like whether to actually enhance what is happening in the creative, whether it's changing products or changing images, or simply doing smart geolocation strategies, where now teams do not need to know how to set up geo-specific feeds, but now can simply go into a creative assembly via the seamless creative platform, choose the strategy they want, make the changes in their messaging, and simply put the campaigns live. There's a range of features and benefits that the platform speaks to. What we want to firstly make sure of is we spend the time on designing an interface that is easy to use. But then looking at some of these complex organizations, specifically from a global viewpoint, we also look at access management. Access management helps us create a safeguarded environment where different business units or different markets can work in exactly the same technology, but isolated into their own workspace. Then we look at the development of product selection. Why is this becoming increasingly more important? If you want to be able to build machine learning models around what are the best products to actually show a user, you need to be able to control product selection without the need to constantly go back to your tech teams. And what we, of course, do is go to our tech team to build a solution that makes it easy for non-technical teams to control which products are being shown. This product selection also does not have to be that sophisticated. You can simply just choose which products to show if you have got products that you would like to get rid of because the stock is too high. Whichever filters that is available in your feed as a trigger can be the trigger that is the selection of your product choice. Then integrating external triggers. There's no limitation on what external triggers we can incorporate. In fact, the crazier the strategy, the more excited we get to kind of get involved in it. And then, of course, the opportunity to run enriched reporting. Now, dynamic creative in itself already unlocks the door for enriched reporting. If we look at Studio itself, there is up to 6 reporting dimensions that can be used. And of course, what we wanted to do as a step beyond that is make sure that there are more reporting options. And what we do is we enable that in the creative, where we can define together what is the reporting or the value that you want to extract from the creative and learn from it. Most importantly, of course, to brand managers is making sure that we can safeguard some of the brand standards. We know there are ample tools out there where you can do banner bolds and you can easily create something quite easily without any technical teams, but it does not speak to safeguarding what brands have built today. And this is where we work closely with the brand teams to read and understand your CI and see what are the elements that we need to make sure is not changed in the platform. Which are the ones that we can control? How can we lock certain features so that admin users have full control to make changes, but locally teams might not have access to that. And the platform allows for us to do that. Doing one design creative across multiple data strategies is also easy to do. If we think about an example of what this use case would be, we can think of using a simple product carousel. But there are different ways that you want the product carousel to trigger in terms of information that it's showing. It could be retargeting. It could be an automated selection via optimization in Studio, looking at best performing products, or in GA360. And then there is the controlled product selection option. And these are all strategies that can be then made available. Then looking at how we simplify A/B split testing, this was also an important one for us to bring into this platform. In the platform, we offer the opportunity to run A/B split testing across as many variants as you would like. But in addition to that, there's also easy controls built in to bring efficiency across some of these A/B split testing that you might be setting up. This could be at a gender split when you maybe want to run different type of videos. You could look at doing messaging split, and instead of having to update every single ad size, you could simply update one ad size, click the copy button, and it will automatically copy it to the right variants and adjust the creative based on that variant's response from an ad size perspective. The last 3 points speak to our workflow. We wanted to create an environment that was easy to preview dynamic creative. At the moment, there's quite a lot of touch points in terms of who is the person that will be able to actually generate the previews that brand managers want to see before campaigns are actually launching. And we have built that solution into the platform. So the preview that you will see in Studio or in DV360 can now be found in one platform. But on top of that, we wanted to make sure that if needed, there is also an approval workflow. So we speak to how an editor could set up the campaign, make the personalization changes, but the approval might sit with a different stakeholder in your business, and those roles could be separated. Another big advantage is, of course, speaking to the scheduled launch dates. Currently, at times when changes need to take place, we either have to make the change late at night, to make sure that these changes are taking effect. But now we can actually set scheduled changes in advance. With scheduled launch dates, it means that you at no point have to worry about at which date that you need to check in to change over your creatives. But now you can already set up your drafts from the start, schedule different launch dates, and automatically the system will allow you to pull old creative and seamlessly change it over to the new creative without any downtime. So the biggest takeaway for us and the reason why we have built an easy to use platform to manage dynamic creative or any dynamic components, whether it is video or display, is because we understand that in the future, creative standards could possibly decline and we could go back to static ads purely because of the complexities of what we will face. And we are here to now remove those complexities and to make sure that we are innovating ahead of that. Moving over to our next product, which is Seamless Signal, I will be handing over to Quintijn Van Kessel, who is our head of product and innovation for EMEA, and he's been with the business for around 10 years. So giving it over to Quintijn just to take you through the Seamless Signal product.
Thank you, Jessica, and hi, everybody. Like Jessica mentioned, I will take you through Seamless Signal, and I would like to do that first, starting off by a small story. Won't take long, but it will give you an idea why we have actually started building Seamless Signal. It's not that we as a company just thought like, hey, let's build a product, but we actually saw a very big need within the industry. One of our clients, Transavia, was doing year over year a winter sport campaign, which they ran on a calendar base, making sure that they had a 2-week burst of a campaign. But as you can see in this picture, at one given moment, this campaign fell together with a moment that there was no snow at all. And you can imagine that that's devastating for your performance. But not even that. Even bad responses came back from clients seeing those ads and being disappointed and all that kind of stuff. So your campaigns, your messaging goes just even beyond the performance that you see on your campaigns. We wanted to solve that, and we wanted to switch it around, making sure that a bad situation becomes a winning situation. And we did that by creating what we call campaign automation based on signals. And here you see an example. It's very easy. It doesn't have to be difficult. We have a recipe that revolves around the when, the then, and the target. And in this case, it was for Transavia. When the snow height on the slopes is 50 centimeters or higher, only then activate the campaigns. And you can also set which campaigns should then be activated. On top of that, we had another recipe saying that if the index on Google Trends for a specific group of keywords, which are winter sport related, is above 60%, indicating that the consumer is interested in the product at that given moment, then increase your bids and rotate your creatives. And then finally, when fresh snow is falling, then make sure that you again increase your bids and set pacing 2 ahead. It's a combination of elements, making sure that the signals that you have at hand can help you automatically perform your campaign in a much better and much more aligned way with what's actually going on in the world. And as a result, a campaign that was devastating the year before was a great success 1 year later, with an increase of 65%, an increase of 45% in the booking volumes, a decrease of 65% in the acquisition cost, and an increase of 23% in the average order. That was huge for Transavia. And again, it also goes beyond the performance, because instead of having bad responses, you actually got on social media a lot of positive responses saying like, how great to know that on a specific area there is enough snow, and with Transavia I can be there this weekend. Because that's what we also made sure, that it's not just the campaign that has been activated, but also the creative will be adjusted with that data, making sure that the whole story is complete. But although this is a very great case to show how crucial it can be to be there at the right moment, or as we all know, the moments that matter, there are more questions that are that marketers are facing. So the first one I addressed, the moments that matter. But you also see that nowadays campaigns tend to be like or a short burst campaign or a more always on approach. But there's always the question, how can I make sure that I'm making the right decision? Because yes, I want to be there for a longer period of time, but I don't want to lose impact or want to lose reach. Well, again, being there on those moments that matter and not on those moments that don't matter, make sure that your budget is allocated in a much smarter way. So you can spread it on a much longer period without losing that impact or reach. You can also make sure that you use those signals, not just to activate your campaigns, but making sure that the products that you're having your creative are the ones that you want to show. So it doesn't make sense to say, hey, buy this sunscreen, sunblock, while it's raining. No, then you automatically make sure that you switch over to products that are really matter for that specific moment. And of course, you can also think about the other way around, because now we're talking about, hey, the right moment, let's get there. But sometimes things happen that you don't want to be there, that you as a brand would like to safeguard your brand and make sure that there are no campaigns running. And those are not fun examples. You can think about terrorism, for instance, but it's really important for your brand to make sure that this is also covered. And with seamless signals, you can also cover that. So what is Seamless Signal? Well, Seamless Signal is a platform in which you can use several signals. We currently have travel advice, weather, and Google Trends. And you can use that to activate your campaigns, modify your bids, your frequencies, your pacing, modify the creation that you have in rotation, or even the dynamic content within a creation. On the other hand, you also get a lot of insights because the system will also show you what changes it has made when campaigns are adjusted, and in the end, also how you can improve your setup even more. Some key features and benefits of the product is, well, I think Jessica also mentioned it. Our mission here is to make things easy, because this might look like a complex topic, and technically that might be true, but for a marketer, that should not be an issue. You should be able to use the tools to make happen what you want to happen. So it's easy to use. The onboarding is really easy. You just connect your D360 platform and you're ready to go. There are full access controls. What's also very interesting is that within your company, you can have multiple business units that all have their own recipes, and you don't want to have clutter or want people running through your recipes and making changes and all that kind of stuff. So there is a multi-client and multi-business unit support within the platform as well. The creation of a recipe, an automation recipe, is very easy. I already showed you it in the previous slides. There is a structure called the when, the then, and the target. So you mentioned what the situation that should be occurring. Then you mentioned what the action is that should be occurring, that should be taken, and then also you mentioned where that should be done. There are ways to do multi-signal recipes. So you can use signals combined, weather and Google Trends and the travel advice. You can all combine them within one recipe, making sure that you really have the automation that you want for your campaign. And also, it's not a black box, right? Because yeah, you can have a recipe, but if you don't know what the data behind the signals are, then it's really difficult to set up such a recipe. So as you can see in this example as well, when you load a signal, you can immediately see what the data will be for the upcoming days, so that you can have a bit of a baseline to set your recipes towards. And finally, well, there are obviously some off-the-shelf signals available, which will be growing over time more and more. And finally, there is a full logging, so no surprises. If something has been changed or not has been changed, because that's also a specific choice made by the platform, you can see that within the logging of the platform. Finally, we have a roadmap, because like I said to you, there is much upcoming. We currently have, as a signal, we have weather, we have Google Trends, and we have travel advice. And as a targeting platform, we have BFT60. And obviously, we have the functionality of managing those recipes, adjusting the settings, and change logging. But there will be signals coming like competitor pricing, contents of news articles, your Google Analytics to have a signal, right? Are people searching for specific web pages, specific products, you name it, sport events, all those kinds of signals you can think of as added value for your campaigns. Target platforms, we started off with DV360, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. We want to do much more. We want to do SA360, we want to do Google Ad Manager, but of course, Facebook is also a very valid one to have in there. And we want to make the connection towards seamless creative, because it's also very valuable that those signals can directly plug into your seamless creative setup, making sure that the creative variants that you have will respond towards the recipes that you've set up. I would like to hear from you if you have ideas about which signal or which platform would be really added value for you, so that we can make sure that we deliver the most value for the industry. And that was my presentation on Seamless Signal. If you have any questions, then of course you can ask them after this or mail us. And now I would like to hand over to Fred, who is the head of product development working on Seamless Search, and he will tell you a little bit more about this amazing new product. Thank you.
Yeah, hello, and thank you, Quintijn. So yeah, it's my pleasure today to talk about Seamless Search, and perhaps somewhat like Quintijn's just gone through, it doesn't just start with a random idea. We come to this conclusion that the products needed to be there through a lot of learning and through understanding our clients. And in this case, it came from questions, and lots of questions from clients, lots of questions we were asking ourselves, and ultimately lots of questions that we didn't have answers for. So some of these questions here are, should I pay to bid for a keyword I already have high organic coverage for? How much does my current paid strategy cannibalize my organic strategy, and vice versa? Should I pay for my brand and brand generic terms? And what paid position should I take based on my current organic coverage? And the reason at the time we didn't have answers to these questions is because they are very, very difficult to answer. The answer to one of these questions is different today than it was yesterday. It's different on one keyword than it is to another keyword, and it's certainly different on mobile as opposed to it being on desktop. And ultimately, as the world changes and our search behavior changes, the answers to these questions are constantly going to change. And that is why we took particular issue with the standard approach in the industry to solving this, and that is the incrementality test. And the incrementality test in this regard, to do with search, was always approached with no consistent methodology. It was always run at the top level. So by that, I mean they apply it to swathes of keywords across all the devices, across all of the time, and they'll just switch them on and off. And there's little to no consideration of any of the nuances that I've spoken through so far. Ultimately, you can imagine by switching things on and off, it's very disruptive and very costly. The bigger problem behind this isn't just that the incrementality test is flawed, it's that the actions that are taken off the back of it can be hugely damaging. There's sweeping recommendations happening here, and typically after running this test, the answer is to either pause all your brand and brand generic terms or unpause all your brand and brand generic terms. And ultimately, if you understand all the nuances involved, you'll know that this is never, ever the right answer. And to make matters even worse, people will not revisit this. They'll say, we did a test 2 years ago, this was the result, and therefore it is better to leave our brand and brand generic terms turned off. But again, we know search terms change over time. The result? well, wasted spend, lost traffic, and ultimately a missed opportunity. So we're sitting there mulling this over, and we came up with Seamless Search. And it's the only platform that enables advertisers to manage their paid and organic search activity holistically. And the reason we've managed to do it is because we're taking into account all of the nuances, all of the small factors, and making sure that we plug it into a machine that can learn and understand over time the changes that are happening. So just run through some of the factors that we look at. On the internal factor side, we're looking at organic position, paid position, device targeting, audience targeting, whether you're in a promo period or not, and crucially, different ad formats and how they impact the search bar. Now, on top of this, external factors get taken into account. So you've got organic competition, paid competition, the time of day, the location in which the search is happening, the seasonality at the point of time. Is it summer? Is it winter? And then finally, what your competitors are doing at the same time. Now, this is all plugged into Seamless Search. And what Seamless Search looks for is true incrementality at a very, very granular level. So effectively, what it's trying to do is it's not looking at paid and it's not looking at just organic. It's looking at both of them combined, and it's trying to maximize your revenue across both of them at a point at which your ROAS doesn't drop below diminishing returns. And ultimately, the output of that is a true search bid. And that will be your truly incremental bid that is going to drive you the most revenue across your total search on the paid side. And then we don't only do that, we're also outputting a true search reporting functionality. So you'll be able to see all of this in the whole and see exactly what the tool is doing on a day-by-day basis. So we all know that there's a huge number of machine learning tools, automation tools coming out at the moment, and we all know that they are clearly, in most senses, going to have a positive impact on our performance. And why? Well, very clearly, the technology has moved on. It's advanced a lot over the last number of years, and therefore, a lot of the automation, a lot of the machine learning that we're looking at now just simply wasn't possible 5 years ago. What we'll also be aware of is that we don't always get full transparency on what the tools are necessarily doing. And this is also, this fills you with like a lack of transparency. You're worried, you don't actually know what's happening, and it can feel like quite a discomfort. So what we've done, and we don't want this to happen when people are using our tools, so we've ensured that there is advanced predictive analytics to tell you what you would have achieved without Seamless Search. There is then also the platform highlighting exactly what is driven from the total search platform, and we'll surface the actual true value that you're getting from Seamless Search, all within the platform and on a daily basis. So it's always clear the value in which the platform is driving. So the benefits, well, hopefully they're nice and clear. They are to know exactly how much true value your paid search delivers. So to know if Seamless Search is actually improving your total search coverage, to be confident where to increase paid coverage and where you might need to pull back, and to do this all automatically. So there's no more you going in, pausing brand generic terms, activating certain other terms. It is all done automatically for you in a machine that you know is working for you. So join the world's biggest brands and come unite your search marketing with us. And I'm going to hand back over to Damien now.
Thank you, Fred. So these are 3 solutions that we've developed to help businesses to unlock the door to growth. They are Seamless Creative, deliver multi-moment messaging at scale. Seamless Signal reacts with immediacy to the events that matter. And Seamless Search, unite your paid and organic marketing. And the best way to find out more about each of these tools is to request a free demo. So if you're interested, please do reach out to us, and we're very happy to set up a demo to take you through them in more detail. Just looking at the clock, it looks like we've got about 15 minutes. I think that there were some questions coming in as we were going through that. So let me just bring those up on my phone, and we'll go through as many of those as we can. But if you do have any questions that we don't cover off as part of this, please do get in contact with us. So we've had A couple of questions come in for Seamless Creative. So Jessica, if you don't mind supporting us with the answers to these questions. So the first question that's come in is, does Seamless Creative still offer the opportunity to design unique creatives, or do all clients use the same templates?
Yeah. So it's a really good question, because I think the biggest challenge we face is because there's a sheer volume of creative platforms out there. We assume that we're doing templates that is kind of like a one size fits all for all advertisers. And that's definitely not the case. With Seamless Creative, we want to keep individuality. We want to be unique to brands. These are templates that are crafted with brands. What we're doing is sophistication to scale those creatives across different signals and use cases, but definitely creative designs are unique to brands themselves.
Great. And then the second question that's come in with regards to Seamless Creative is, what is the key difference between existing banner creation tools and Seamless Creative?
So, for starters, I mean, of course, I cannot speak to all the features that some of these platforms out there have, but two main key features I think that we definitely use as differentiators are, one is the integration, the existing integration with platforms in working environments for media teams. If I take display as a fantastic example, these creatives are integrated into Studio. They're integrated into Campaign Manager. So the simplicity is actually assigning simply your creatives in DV360 once you are ready to launch a campaign. So there's no need to download creatives and then go back into other platforms and re-upload them. In that process, it's already error prone. So we've cut out the requirement for that. In addition to that, we look at the brand safety. We all speak and try and strive to making sure that we protect brands in the digital environment. And this is one of the biggest things that we have built into this platform, is making sure that creatives are exactly on brand. And there's no flexibility to get around it, which we know some of the drag and drop platforms, of course, have the ability to create creatives that are off brand.
Yeah, that's very clear. Quintijn, we have a couple of questions on Seamless Signal as well, which have come in. So the first question is, how does Seamless Signal differ from custom bidding?
Well, I think the use case is completely different, right? So custom bidding is a really nice new feature, or relatively new feature within the DV360 atmosphere, but it's there for your long-term campaigns, which are really there for performance. Because what does it do? It optimizes your bidding based on the performance that you have over a very long period of time. There's a long learning curve that's needed, and it can be very valuable, for instance, for your retargeting setup. But if you look at what Seamless Signal does, it responds to signals getting in at every given moment. So that's why those two can also not coincide with each other. We would never advise you to use Seamless Signal on campaigns that are running the bid optimization. So custom bidding, because every time something happens, every time a signal makes a change, that means that the algorithms need to start relearning, and that's not effective at all. So the use cases are completely different. Do you want to be responsive at any given moment towards a signal that's relevant, or do you want to optimize your bidding over a longer period of time? And that's the difference.
Yeah, I think that's really clear. And somewhat linked to that is the other question as well, which we've got, which is if the signal data is able to influence the creative messaging. So whether you can use Seamless Signal to influence creative messaging.
Yeah, this is a very good question as well, because these are questions and challenges that we have been facing with our clients as well. And yes, we can already do that. But we are also working on making that even more easy. That from the platform, you can easily just say, this recipe must influence this creative by, if it starts raining, then activate this variant. Or if I choose weather, then push through that weather data. Those things will soon also be part of the platforms itself. Nowadays, we can already do it on what I always call on the back end, making sure that that data is coming through. But yes, there will be what I would like to call a seamless integration between the two.
I think that's hugely exciting. And when you think about what multi-moment messaging is all about. This is something that's really going to enable that. So thank you. And then last but not least, we've had a few questions come in on Seamless Search, Fred. The first is, does Seamless Search allow me to see performance at a keyword level?
I guess there's two sides to this, to be honest. There's, I guess the first side, I don't know if this is what's being asked, but I'm gonna answer it anyway. Going in to the platform, Seamless will consider your keyword at a very granular level, at a very granular device level as well. So it's actually measuring your existing performance at that really granular level and building individual machine learning models for each one of those granular elements. Ultimately, what that knock-on effect means is that in the reporting infrastructure, you also get surfaced all of that. So you get surfaced the projections for each individual granular part of the keyword device, and you also get surfaced the actual performance and what the two look like next to each other. And that's why we're saying that it's really highly transparent, because we're telling you what we think we're going to achieve, and we're also telling you what we are going to achieve. So yes, it does do that. Is the short answer.
Cool. And then another question that we got was, will Seamless Search be effective in industries beyond retail? So I know a lot of our clients at the moment are retail clients, but can the tool be used for everyone?
Yeah. So I guess to change the question a bit is, do you as a brand have competitors bidding on some of your key terms? And if the answer to that is yes, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, it doesn't matter like anything about what you're doing. If you have competitors that are on any of your key terms, even for a small amount of time, if that is the case, then the answer is yes, Seamless Search is useful for you.
Yeah, you can imagine some of these spaces where people are having to bid, tens of pounds on their brand terms, how powerful a tool that understands that relationship could be for that.
So yeah, exactly. Finance, gambling, huge potential gains for those industries.
Yeah. And then the last question on Seamless Search is, what uplifts have you seen for the clients that you're working with?
Yeah, so I mean, it comes obviously there's a ton of different metrics and a huge amount that we're surfacing in the platform, but let's just stick with revenue, because I mean, at the end of the day, the whole point of this, as Damien presented at the beginning, is about growth. And to achieve growth, you need your revenue to go up, and we're seeing gains across total search between 20 and 25%.
Brilliant. Well, I want to thank Jessica, Quintijn and Fred for their time today, taking us through the technology that we've developed. We're really excited about what we're doing. We hope that you are too. And we want to thank you all for joining us today. And we look forward to catching up with you all soon. Thank you very much.